Hi there. We wanted to do a review of our new 2018 Zion. We've actually had it now for 6 weeks. It's February 24th and we thought we'd beaten winter, and we were hoping to go down to one of the nice ocean vistas around Vancouver, BC, where we're at, and do this from a nice beach. But as you can see, we've got probably, I don't know, 20 centimeters of snow, 8 inches of snow that we hadn't counted on. So we're actually doing it at our storage lot. We can't keep the campervan where we live, so we've got it at a storage lot, which is actually connected to a dealership for RVs. So we'll do it here. I wanted to just mention why we got a campervan in the first place, and really it was because my wife and I are avid hikers. We're out often, not as much as I would like to be, but we're out quite often, more than most folks. And often we'd like to stay somewhere where we're at, and when we've done a trip, stay at the trailhead, stay overnight. And also, of course, we're looking like many other people, we're looking at traveling to some more remote locations and staying there as well. So we thought we'd just go and walk you through the outside of the van, then we'll take you through the inside, talk about what we've really liked in owning the van for 6 weeks, talk about what we think are probably some challenges and some opportunities for some improvements. You're going to hear some snow clearing noises in the background and some sounds from other people who are checking their RVs after all the snow. So here's the front of the ProMaster. You're very familiar. If you're looking at the Zion, you're familiar with it. There's nothing too exciting about this. The color is sandstone, and this is not going to be as gleaming as you would see in a showroom, because we've been using it, but it's also probably the most popular color I can see from the Zions, and if I'd known it was going to be this popular, I'm not sure we would have chosen this particular color. Anyway, 20 feet, 9 inches, Dodge ProMaster chassis. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we're in the cab, but generally very positive in terms of driving, and I have no negative things to say about it. Now, one concern I have noted about the ProMaster is the battery that comes with it, and I have seen examples on YouTube where people have had challenges with the battery after it's not very old. So in anticipation of that, and also recognizing that we'll probably be boondocking, we actually went out and picked up one of these. So this is the Eliminator. It's a 750 watt jump starter, so quite small. You can see the cables, very easy to hook up to your battery. Also comes with a flashlight component if you want. Very easy to charge itself. You can charge it at home in your typical USB, and try not to drop the cables in the snow like I just did. But so it's easy to charge just like any other battery pack at home, and can actually deal with engines of a 3.6 liter size quite easily. Actually, if I show you the chart right here, you'll see the chart there shows that it can actually handle even 8-cylinder engines up until quite cold temperature. So very positive in terms of useful tool. The one thing I changed when we first got the Zion was actually the tires, and the tires on it looked like they were quite good to me, but we live in an area where, as you see, it can snow. So what I did is I put on some all-terrain tires. You can see that there. They're Yokohama Geolanders, and the reason is we will be driving on roads that are gravel roads often, so we want that little extra traction. And these are also an all-weather tire. So most people are familiar with all seasons. In Canada, they are often referred to as 3 seasons. All-weather tires are somewhere between an all-season tire and a snow tire. So, you know, roughly I would say if an all-season tire gives you a 6 out of 10 in terms of snow traction, an all-weather tire gives you like a 7.5, and a snow tire maybe gives you 9. Kind of my rough estimate of how I would break it down. So nice tires. I literally had 85 kilometers on this vehicle when we picked it up, and we took it to a dealer, sold the tires to the dealer, and they put these tires on, and off we went. Rest of the vehicle, I'll talk a little bit. The mirror. If you ever watch any of the other Zion, you'll see the mirrors are very positively reviewed by a guy who's named Gary the Van Guy. I think Guarantee RV in Oregon. But the mirrors, you can see, are great because the upper portion and the lower portion are all adjustable, and they work really well for backing up. Rest of the van, moving along. You can see this is the furnace area. Here's the sewer, and you can see down here, this is how you get into the gray water and the black water. Sewer hose is locked in here. The only negative comment I have is that this area can actually, and you can see some of it, it can build some gravel and rock as you drive along the road. And although this seems to be better than the previous models, it's not the most secure in terms of how it sticks, but we've never had any problem with it coming off. Just moving along, here's the shower. I'm not going to show you this, we haven't used it, but it's an outdoor shower. So here we are at the back of the van. I've got, you can see up here, you can see the backup camera and I think that's a television antenna. And then down here on the 2018 model, you've got actually backup sensors, and they're really helpful. They start beeping, I think, at about 6 feet from an object, and then when you're within 12 inches, it's a constant beep. But it works really well in terms of helping you back up. Very easy. Electrical hookup. Towing, I think you can tow up to 2,000 pounds. I won't bother showing you that. In the back itself, we actually chose the model that has the backup sofa. Partly so we could have some storage that wouldn't be open to the rest of the coach. Doors open a long way. They'll open all the way back, which is great. So you can have that fully opened. In the back of the doors itself, you'll see here's the table, nicely done. Curtains, of course, for the back windows. It's also an emergency exit if you need it that way. Now in the back itself, we've got a fair amount of storage. You can see through here. We haven't filled this even close to what we'll probably do, but we've got a number of things in here right now that we use. And you can kind of get an idea just looking back how much room there is. And I think if you organize and put things in an orderly fashion, you'll have quite a bit of room. When we bought it, our dealer gave us a deluxe RV starter kit, which has a water hose, has a water regulator, and also comes with a sewer hose if we're not actually using the macerator hose. Now, one thing that's I've added since we've had the van is some additional insulation, and you can see it's about an inch thick, the pink. Literally went to Home Depot, bought a sheet for under $20, cut it in slices to fit in here. And the reason we did that is we found that the first night we stayed in here, it was quite cold underneath the bed. And so I put some insulation in here and in one of the storage cabinets inside to sort of help with that cold. Also at the back, we bought the screen package, so you can see it. We haven't got the screen itself in, but they've got the outlying area in place. And so you can zip a mosquito screen in there and sit and enjoy the outside without having to worry about the nuisances of different types of bugs trying to get in. All right, big door to get in. One of the nice things about the Zion compared to some of the other models in the Roadtrek family and some of the other Class Bs, kitchen actually faces out. So if you're cooking, you get to look into what will probably be your camping area. Step comes out. You can lock it out if you're coming in and out, so it doesn't go back and forth all the time. Very nice feature. In terms of the inside itself, you get an idea of the flooring. We've put some mats all along just to add some warmth. One thing I would note too is that when you close this door, it has to be closed hard. It slides very easy, but it truly has to slam in order to be properly closed. And if it's not slammed, you can't lock the doors, and it's kind of hard to figure out. Because in my case, we had one case I spent probably 20 minutes trying to figure out why the doors wouldn't lock, and it wasn't showing as an open door on the ProMaster chassis. So what we did was open it, slam it, and then everything worked perfectly fine after that. All right, so now we're going to go in the van, and then Mickey will join me in a few minutes. I'll just show you the awning going out. Now I'll bring it back in. Fairly straightforward. The awning goes out, I think, about 9 or 10 feet and snugs up nice. Now, one thing you need to be careful about, that if you have the engine running, the awning will not go out. That kind of makes sense, I think, in most practical instances. You wouldn't want to be driving and have someone have an awning go out, but I was just charging the batteries, had the engine running, and then I wanted to get the awning out, and it wouldn't go. And I spent, again, about 20 minutes. I pulled all the fuses, I checked the inverter. It actually doesn't even need the inverter. It's not a, it's runs on the coach batteries directly. But I ended up phoning the dealership, talking to them for 20 minutes. They couldn't figure it out either, decided I'd bring it in. And then I turned off the engine because the batteries were charged enough, and I hit the button by accident and the awning went out, and then I figured it all out. So this is the what it would look like if we were out camping. You'd be cooking. This is the sink, and you can see we're winterized. You can still see some of the RV fluid in there. Stove is over here. Microwave is up there. So if you're cooking, there's also a little additional table that comes up to give you, actually not so much a table, but it's counter space, nicely done actually. So if you're actually here, you could be looking out at where your typical campsite would be and being able to make a meal. And that's what's nice. I actually really like that. Some of the other models in Roadtrek, the kitchen's on the other side, so you'd be typically looking outside, but not into your campsite. This I think is nice. Walk you through the cab right now. So you can see we put a GoPro mount on our cab. Dodge ProMaster, I mean, not much that you wouldn't expect. It's very comfortable. I find the seats incredibly comfortable. Typical amenities you'd see in a basic vehicle with radio, with navigation now, and GPS, all of that sort of stuff. There you can see the mirrors again from here. Very effective in terms of how they work. The mirrors are actually nicely done, and they do fold. They do fold in and out. The other thing I wanted to mention is that right over here, just below the vehicle height sticker, is actually the volt start button, and that will start your engine automatically if your battery gets below a certain level. And now the negative thing about that is if you bought a model in Canada, as soon as that engine starts, your running lights come on. So if you were in a darkened campground and your air conditioning was going and you weren't plugged in, and your volt start comes in because your battery starts to get low, your lights also come on, or your running lights. So that might cause some challenges. The other thing I would say about this cab, you have to be very careful about the standing up too early. I think neither Mickey and I are overtly tall. I'm about 5'10", Mickey's about 5'5", and I think we've each banged our heads here a half a dozen times. It's something that you will learn. The other thing that's interesting about the cab is the fact that the seats will swivel. So I'll get Mickey to come up and step into the passenger seat, and I'll get her actually to close the, just show you how this thing closes. It's actually quite easily done. Mickey's making it look much more difficult than it is, typically. Here's what we'll do. I'll pass this to Mickey. Oh, there we go. There we go. All the way, and then the only time it's a little bit tougher is right at the end. We have to just push it in a little bit more. Now push it. That's what you have to do. Just push it in. There you go. There. So that normally takes about 3 seconds, but we haven't used this in a couple weeks. So I'll get Mickey to actually sit in the front cab. And to show you how the seats, both seats swivel. So she'll swivel the the passenger seat right around. Driver's seat does the same, and the van won't start if the seats are swiveled back this way. So let's just walk through the rest of the van right now. Mickey will open up the bathroom. Now, our bathroom is actually 2 bathrooms in one, and I'll explain that in a minute. So here's the bathroom. That's just a little lock so that it doesn't open up while you're traveling. So it's a little cluttery. You can see we actually haven't even used the bathroom yet. Standard toilet, and we're winterized, as you can tell by the pink. We haven't actually used the toilet. There is the RV antifreeze that we have some extra with us. A sink. Shower hasn't been hooked up. The sink. Nice light up here. In our bathroom, as I say, it's 2 bathrooms in one. That's our cat's bathroom. We would normally have the kitty litter in here by itself, and we just leave the door slightly open, sort of like this. Over here with our cat. And then she can use the washroom, and then if we want to use the washroom, we'll just pick that up and put it out on the mat and close the door and use the washroom. So you can tell there's enough room, like for someone like me who's about 5'10", and I normally would not shower with kitty litter in the bathroom. But you can kind of see I've got enough room. The process for showering, and we haven't showered yet. In here, we shower regularly, but we haven't showered here. So this comes out.
It's winterized right now.
This can come out, and then we can close the doors like this. All right, so here I am in the bathroom. I'm 5'10" plus toque. We close the doors like this. So there you go. Shower curtain would come through. You've got that little bit of extra room. You can see certainly enough room with the shower handle here to fit, but it'll be tight. But you can literally stand. So I'm 5'10", about 180 pounds. Mickey's smaller than that. So there's enough room. It's not going to be a long, comfy shower because we just don't have the capacity in the tanks, but it will get the job done. Back out. I'm just going to move the kitty litter back into the bathroom. One nice thing about having kitty litter in your RV is it actually also works as a desiccant. So it draws the the moisture out of the air that might already be in your RV. And we do keep a couple containers of open desiccant in here to help it keep the van clean and without too much moisture. So I'll just walk through here. Here's the power bar. You can see all the different features. Patio light outside, the water pump, power step. The power step you can turn off so that it will stay out when you're going back and forth. The inverter, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. The battery disconnect, so basically the coach batteries. Just about everything in the van runs off a coach battery. The only things that wouldn't would be the microwave and the air conditioner primarily. And if you plug in some other 110 appliance like a hair dryer, then you have to turn on the inverter, and that will draw power from your battery that way. Otherwise, you never need to use really your inverter. There's the lithium batteries. We have two Ecotrek 200, so we have 400 amp hours on the lithium batteries, and lithium batteries are simply great. One thing we have noticed is when we turn these off and you turn them back on, let's just say you've had the van sitting here for a couple of weeks, sometimes you have to hit reset in order to make sure that they actually properly come on again. More often than not, we have to set reset. All right, so Mickey's just going to show us how to start the stove. It's fairly straightforward. Oh, instantly. So what she did is she's holding the onto the gas side. The gas comes up. She presses the igniter, which is like if you got a barbecue at home. It's one of those things, but hopefully more reliable. Flicks, starts the propane stove. You keep the gas on until it's the flame's fully engaged, and then you can adjust the height of the gas. I don't know if you can see it well because it's fairly light in here now, but you should be able to see it going. And the one nice thing about propane in cooking inside is it will heat your coach a little more. The one negative thing is it will heat your coach a little more if it's a hot day. And also when you cook with propane, it produces a fair amount of moisture inside the van. So you also want to have this fan open if you can. Now I'm going to have Mickey show us how we make the bed, or how I often usually make the bed. Before I do that, I'll just talk a little bit about the structure of the Zion. Maybe Mickey can just step sideways here. So we got the sofa in the back, and now I could have got it down both with a sofa basically on each side. That has a lot of advantages if you want to store something like a bicycle in between, or maybe a small kayak. This has a real advantage because it actually allows us, you saw from the back, and it allows us to store things back here. So we could have a kayak back there, inflatable kayak, or a paddleboard, and it just stays separate from the rest of the vehicle. It's not moving in between, and we thought that was helpful. Now the sofa itself comes down very easily. There's just a button here that will take the sofa, make it flat. Basically it joins the two ottomans, and then that becomes a very large bed. So Mickey will put the sofa down and then just show us what the two twin bed option would look like. So you can configure this really three ways, or you can sleep three ways, maybe a better way of saying it. There we go. Now she'll just turn this as if we were going to sleep in, say, two single style options. Okay, so you can see how one way you could do that right now is Mickey could put her head and sleep with her head at the back of the van, and have basically her feet coming forward here, and there's a lot of space. So you could sleep with your head back here all the way, and then have a second person doing exactly the same thing here. The other option is to actually make what is going to be a giant bed. So now Mickey will just take this configuration and turn it into really a king-size bed. It's much larger than the bed we have at home, and it only takes a few minutes. So this piece of wood basically comes across, locks in there. You'd slide the pillows across like this. Oh, Mickey's feet are in the way. Normally you'd be doing this from where I am, not where she is. So slide across, and then you would take the two pillows like that, as one example. And now you've got a giant bed. Mickey can just lie this sideways. So typically we've slept this way. So Mickey's about 5'5", and I'm 5'10". I think probably up to 6 feet you'd be fine, as long as you didn't straighten your legs. At 5'10", I can feel my feet back there, but very comfortable. You could easily sleep two people. You can tell it's a giant space, The other way is to sleep with your head or feet to the back, and again, you can just see, I think you could probably be, my guess, maybe 6'4", and sleep on this bed very comfortably. So lots of room for two either way. And that's one of the things that we really liked about the Zion. That was probably our one of our major draws. And then underneath, you can see a little piece of reflectix that we had in there, but you can see there's still room if you wanted to put some things down here for storage at night, or if that's where your dog might like to sleep, or your cat, that would work out really well.
Our cat sleeps here.
Yeah, our cat sleeps over here. We have a little step that we'll show you a picture of, but we have a little three steps, each 4 inches up, and the cat can jump up there because she's an old girl, so she doesn't like to jump too high too fast. These are the catchy pillows that came from Roadtrek. But you can see a lot of space. Now, one thing we didn't spend a lot of time showing you is just some of the other things that come inside. So yes, you get a TV, yes, you get a Blu-ray. TV's 22 inches. Actually, funny, right here in the storage lot where we have the RV, we get 22 stations. Now, 4 of those are shopping channels, unfortunately, and at least 3 of them are in languages that I can't speak, but or understand. But the TV seems to work reasonably well if you're in a city. Now, the window shades here, 3 windows. This window doesn't open, so it just comes with a shade, and you can see that it's very block out the sun quite well. The other windows here, because these windows open, they slide open, you have a screen option, and on the other side there's a shutter option, and you can actually have half shuttered and half screen. Same on this window, because it does open, it has the screen option and then the shutter option. Now these windows, as you can see, are windows that would actually slide out. So they just slide sideways. I actually thought when we were looking at the van that would actually be a positive thing. So I'll show you this. Lots of open fresh air. When you look at some of the other models in the Mercedes, they have these little windows that seem to only open like 3 inches. I didn't like that. However, having been out on a trip where we were stuck in rain for 2 days, you really can't open these windows. We wouldn't open wide anyway because it was winter time, but if we'd had those little windows that open sideways, we would have been able to get a little bit of fresh air that way. So that's just something you consider when you're looking at what you want in a van. In terms of lighting, there's lots of lights here. There's 1, 2, 3 side lights along the side here. You just push, they go on and off. And we've got LEDs, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so 11 actually.
Under the microwave as well.
And one under the microwave as well, so I guess an even dozen. So it's can be very well lit. My only complaint on the LEDs is I find them kind of bright, so we often use just these ones on the side, so it's not quite so bright for us. Okay, so one of the things that we added, we put in some Velcro, and Mickey will show you why in a second, but we put in some Velcro along in here, also command hooks. I don't think you can have too many command hooks. We've got them now in a few places where we can hang things. So we put some Velcro running right back there to here. And then we were at IKEA and we bought effectively a nice shower curtain that we can use to separate the cab from the rest of the chassis. And it's in part because we want to make sure that we have some level of privacy if we're in the back. These windows are all tinted, and I can tell you that when you're outside, it's almost impossible to see someone back in here. The only window that really makes a difference and people can look through is actually the cab. So what we've done is put a shower curtain and darker on the inside, light on the side facing the cab itself. And it does 2 things really. It provides just that privacy. So if you want to come out after you've had a shower, you've got and you could obviously close these curtains, but gives you some privacy. The other thing too is it's not much for insulation, but it does mean that you're not heating. If you've got the furnace on, it does mean that you're not heating the cab as much. I would think if we were to be spending some more time in the winter, we'd probably put an insulated curtain here instead of just the shower curtain. And then that way, or an insulated blanket, and that way it would provide us a little bit more heat. But it works very well. It's inexpensive, and because it's basically a shower curtain, we can get it dirty and wash it, and Velcro is inexpensive. We just had to sew some Velcro on this to make it work. All right, one of the things we wanted to actually show you as well, we sort of closed the door because it's getting cold out, but it's supposed to rain, no more snow. One of the things we wanted to show you as well was the furnace, which is down here. And we had a choice when we bought this as to whether we'd buy the furnace, which is a pretty standard RV furnace, a Suburban, I think is the brand, or spend probably like about $4,000 more and get an Aldi system, which has kind of got a heated fluid that goes throughout the cab. Went primarily with the Suburban furnace, partly because it's a lot less expensive, and partly if we're somewhere in the middle of Idaho or northern Alberta and the furnace breaks, anybody can fix it. So I'll just show you how the furnace works. We've got a little automatic control here, and Mickey turned on one of the many wonderful LED lights, and we'll change the mode. That's turning to auto for the fan. That's the air conditioner set at 22, and this is the furnace. And we'll just be quiet for a second and listen. So that's the furnace. I think it sounds reasonably loud. It's not the furnace that's loud, it's actually the fan that's loud. And it's not that it's actually loud, it's just that we're in a very small space. So I'll pause and be quiet for a second. And you're seated largely where you'd be sleeping, so I guess you can decide on how loud that sounds. It will go on and off automatically, just like a regular furnace. So we wanted to just show you that. Now we're actually going to show you what the kitchen tables look like, or the table look like. We've already pulled it out. It's hooked onto the door, as I showed you when I was showing the rear of the coach. So this is the table that goes in the back, and there's a space here at the back, and then there's a space up here at the front. And actually, maybe what I'll show you is just the front one. So just pull out the little tab in here, and I'll just put it over there for now. Table leg fits nicely here in the closet. One thing you have to make sure, because we tried this a few minutes ago, if you don't have this all the way out, the table leg doesn't fit very securely in the mounting bracket. So very straightforward. Comes in here, goes in this little slot down there, ideally. You spin it. There. All right, so I've got the table from the back. This fits on nice and snug. So this actually looks reasonable. I'll just sit in the passenger side. And the driver can sit there as well, and so you've got a small little table to eat lunch. Now, I'm going to say I would probably never use this. Mickey and I have used it once. We didn't film the hassle of having to move the driver's seat. You've got to slide the seat forward as far as it can be. Then you have to spin it, and there's not a lot of room to spin it. And when you're actually seated in the driver's seat, and I'll give you just an example of this. So, if I was to want to sit here, I can do so, and I can actually put my seat back a little more if I like, so it doesn't look quite so straight as I am right now. But I'm pretty much stuck here, and so if I needed salt or pepper, Mickey's going to have to get up and get the stuff, because you saw how it's not the easiest thing to move around. You can move the table a bit, but you can do it. We can do it, and we're average-sized people. Anybody bigger, it would be troublesome, and I think this would actually be great if you're one person traveling, because you could set the seat, you could forget about the driver's seat, just set this up and probably use it back and forth. But for two, frankly, I doubt we'll ever use it. And I'd say it's an option they could probably do without. Now we'll actually set the table up in a minute in the back, when that's actually much easier. Okay, same process for the main table in the back. Remove the little cap that keeps the thing clean. Table leg is set as far as it'll go because I just used it at the one in the front cab. Same thing. You can see it's pretty snug. I've got the table already out here. Comes in and it snugs up. So again, if you could probably fit 4 people who could use this. I mean, not really a lot of space to have 4 people for dinner, but if you're going to have a cup of coffee, share some stories, share a beverage, this would work fine. Certainly works well enough to get from the back. You still have if there's just 2 of you, it's still a bit of a challenge to get out. You've got to move the table and slide out. So again, if there's somebody off on the side like this, It works very well, in and out. Somebody could sit there at the back, but there's not a lot of space in here to eat. The one thing, and I'll comment about this earlier, Class Bs are meant to, your main area is the outside area. Inside, you use it when you have to. I mean, what I've seen from some of the other videos that are traveling around, people that are traveling around on a regular basis, they never set up their table. They'd be sitting dinner and they've either got their seat turned around and they're eating off their plate or out of a bowl, or they're sitting at the back. They're not bothering with the table. It's here if you want to use it. We've used it. It would be great if you wanted to play cards, but there's not a lot of room to get around with it. All right, so one of the things, if you're ever going to cook, particularly if you're going to cook in a small van like this, or even on a hot day and you just want to get some fresh air blowing in and you just have maybe the back windows open a bit, fantastic fan. We've used it. It comes with an automatic control here, which you can actually, there's a mounting device, so you can mount it up here if you like. We just haven't bothered yet. It can be set on auto or manual. We've just used it manually. When you set it on auto, it'll come on at certain temperatures. It works very well in terms of bringing cool air in, and it should work very well in terms of getting condensation from the shower out. If you're cooking, you're going to want to have it on because it draws both the odors and the fumes from the propane, and more importantly, I think probably the condensation that would be in the propane out. I can't turn it on right now because we've got 6 inches of snow above the roof. And what I'd point out is it does come with a rain sensor, which is a great thing. So if you have it open and it starts to rain, the system will, even on manual, automatically close. The negative thing about that is if you're stuck in the west coast of Vancouver Island and it's raining and you're trying to cook and you have the vent open, it's likely going to keep closing because the rain's going to hit the sensor. So it's just a little difficult. Might be one idea would be consider putting one of the vent covers over top of this at some point in the future.
And you can also open this window right here.
Yeah, that's true. If you wanted to, you could open this window here, slide the curtains over, and this window opens quite wide. So that's another way to get some fresh air in while you're cooking. But unfortunately, with these flat windows, if you left them open very long, you'd also get rain coming in if it was wet. One of the best things about Roadtreks is the technology. So we talked about the lithium batteries we have. We've also got solar panels. We have 270 watts of solar on this. That's a funny amount. Usually you see people either having 200 watts solar or 300. We ended up as 270. It was just part of it was actually part of the whole negotiations. The way we actually purchased this van, I sent an email to the dealer saying this is what we want and this is the price we're prepared to pay. They countered, basically agreeing with the price, and the only thing they adjusted is they moved the solar from a 300 to a 200, and for my price I negotiated the 270. And we've got some shots of the solar panels that will show you when they didn't have snow on them, but with 270 you end up with two 100 watts and then two 35 watt panels on the side. And technically I think that's more than enough solar that most people will use, but generally I think the rule of thumb is as much solar as you can put on the roof, the better. I saw a video from Fit RV, and the gentleman there had made a calculation that sort of the optimum amount, or maybe where you hit the best value, was 160 watts of solar. Any more than that would be helpful, but not necessarily going to help a lot more. But I also know some people that are running with 450 and speak very highly of it. One of the things we also wanted to show you, so we're talking about technology, is just all the electrical outlets in the coach. So we've got several running right from the back here. We've got plug-ins for 110. We've got a USB here. Oh, and another plug in there, which I can't see because of the lights, but lots of plugs.
12 volt.
12 volt. Mm-hmm. Same thing on the other side. So we've got another one here. Right there. One thing that there isn't anywhere to hang things. So last time we were here, we had a cord plugged into the USB, and I had my phone sitting on the shelf by the window. So one thing that could be added in this is maybe some little, one of the things we'll probably add are some little things that we can, little sacks that we can either Velcro or hook up so that we can hang things like phones and stuff on. So plugs there, more over here.
Oh, one note. We don't have cup holders in the back.
Yes, that's one thing that we did note. If you're not using the table, trying to decide whether you can set it up here on the shelf, and that might work, whether you can balance it on your knee, not recommended, or just holding it in your hand, which is unfortunate. So we have another set of plugs here, and here you could easily add something where you could be able to put your phone or other electrical devices. Other plugs are farther up. We've got plugs right here, but these are just the 110 volts. That's for the, this would be basically, if you had something like a hot, what's the popular device now, Mickey? You've got one of them?
Instant Pot.
Instant Pot. You could plug it in here. Again, if you're going to use any of the 110, you have to turn on the inverter. So the only things that you really need the inverter, and I mentioned this earlier for, is a 110 device, and that allows you to use your DC charge in your stored batteries, and it'll turn it into alternating current so that you can actually use it for either the air conditioner, which we haven't shown you because we haven't used it, but it's up here, and it's operates off the same thermostat as the furnace. So there's electrical plugs there for 110, and then here again you've got the 3 plugs that we showed you at the back. So you've got the 12 volt, you got the USB, and then you've got the 110 there. And I think that is the main plugs for this. We have standard mini in the actual van itself. We've got a USB and a 12 volt as part of the actual Dodge Ram chassis. Alright, so we thought we'd finish this video with a short summary. Just when we started looking at Class Bs, we actually cross-shopped with a couple of different brands. We looked at the Winnebago Travato. I really like the Winnebago. I think it's a real value for your money sort of Class B. Nice floor plan, and it had, we looked at the G model, and it had built on a Dodge ProMaster chassis, so very positive. The thing I think that turned us off on the Travato was the bed. It was quite small. It folds down, which has some advantages, but we have some 2-person tents that actually have a larger bed than 2 small-person tents that have a larger bed than Travato. The bathroom in the Travato was nice. It was a little bit longer than the one we have here in the Zion. The other model that we looked at primarily was the Heimer Actif, and so the same manufacturer as Zion from Irwin Heimer Group, but it's the Heimer Actif, which is kind of like, I would describe it as more the European model. Just the style of it feels a little bit more European. It has a folding bed at the back, but everything else, the technology is very much the same as in the Roadtrek, so high-end technology. Has a nice skylight up here, which I thought was great, and more importantly, I really like the windows in the Heimer. They open out, and not just like in the Mercedes where they only open out a couple inches. These ones open out a long way, so nicer than the sliding windows that are in the Zion. I think the feature for us in the Actif that wasn't something that we're interested in was the fact that it only comes with a cassette toilet. So you have about a 4.5 US gallon toilet with is in a cassette, so it's kind of like a carry-on suitcase. Looks very much like that, and you take that and then you go to either dump sites or washrooms and you can dump it. And I think in some cases that offers additional practicality, but it also kind of just makes the whole sewage thing a little too close for us. And the volume, of course, is about half of what you have in the Zion, so you'd be dumping your tank a lot sooner. And I think it's just the fact that you're kind of just dumping a suitcase full of sewage that we just weren't comfortable with as being first-time RVers. So Zion met a number of the things that were important to us. Certainly the technology package that's available was very positive. The other thing that I think that was really important for us in the Zion, and you'd have the same thing in the Actif, is a 6-year warranty. Even these bathroom doors, if they were to come undone in 2 years, fully covered by the warranty, even if the LED lights burn out at some point, covered for the first 6 years. So that was a very positive thing. Overall, I'd say the Zion has been a great purchase for us. We've had it for a little over now 6 weeks. It's fun to drive. It truly is fun to drive. Power is sufficient. It's not a powerful camper van, but it's easily powerful enough to keep up at speed limits on the hills that we live around, and they're fairly steep. So there's adequate power, fun to drive. As I talked about earlier, the bed is huge, so it gives you that extra capacity if you feel like just having that extra room, and that little sense of luxury is a very positive thing. So very happy with the Zion overall. We hope to do a more detailed review after maybe 6 months, and we found out maybe a few quirks and other little things that don't work so well. So with that, I think that kind of closes up our summary, and you know what, we're kind of actually done with winter, so join me and we'll head out into a different type of weather. Not summer, but a nice spring.